we want to, before we start, we want to acknowledge and congratulate some NDAs and also DAEs and accredited entities. Accreditation is not an easy task, not at all. And getting a funding proposal approved is not an easy task at all. So for our colleagues who have had the opportunity to get their accreditation approved and their funding proposal approved, we believe that as we did the previous time, we need to congratulate them. So today we have the Development Bank of Namibia, which has been accredited, and we also have Banque Nationale d'Investissement based in Côte d'Ivoire. And I believe that ASI is here. I had a saying that the Bank for Namibia, they haven't registered yet, but ASI is on. And ASI, do you want to just 1 minute say something? Guillaume, ASI? Guillaume? Okay, let's go ahead. We also want to congratulate Sanbi. And Sanbi has done a very great job. They were able to get their projects approved before their first accreditation actually expires. And this is a very treacherous journey, and we need to congratulate them. We have Funanami and Muremi on. Funanami, 1 minute. Hello.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me representing Sambi. And yeah, we're very much excited with how things went at the board meeting 2 weeks back, and we are looking forward to see how we can best implement the project that was approved and learning from our counterparts that have had project approved by the Green Climate Fund. As you know, this was the first one for South African National Biodiversity Institute project approved. And yeah, but thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a lot of chat with Mandy, and it's a very great achievement and great milestone. So congratulations. Okay, so now we are going to the debriefing session. We want to invite the board member, Dr. Entry Bwesiakon, if you've joined. Dr. Bwesiakon? Dr.
Yes, I'm here.
Is Entry Bwesiakon Amwa is board member for the GCF, and we are honored to have him to give us a debriefing of the key decisions that they took and the implications for us as Africa stakeholders. And we have accredited entities, we have NDAs, we have also NGOs and civil society and private sector on this call. So, Dr. Entry, over to you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Dr. Kumsin, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this very important meeting. It was good to also hear Funi's voice talking from afar. Funi, I missed you in Bonn for the SBC. So, in fact, this is a big opportunity to share the good news that came from the board meeting that just ended. So that was the 42nd board meeting of the GCF. For a typical board meeting, you have policy issues, and then you also have investment or funding proposals, and then accreditation issues. And so this board meeting is one of the landmark board meetings because it dealt with these two legs more comprehensively and then got outcomes that are very decisive. And so let me start with the funding proposal. So this board meeting approved of about 1.2 billion US dollars in funding proposals that came from Growth for Ghana. That project had been in the pipeline for the past 5 years. I think this is the 6th year. And I know some other projects had gone through similar processes. And so it was a landmark decision to get some of these projects. And what we are also seeing is that because of the bulk nature of these projects that have been approved, it tells us that, okay, there are certain things that we have been complaining about as developing countries in terms of delays in the processes that are gradually being eased off. And so we are not there yet. There's still more to be done in terms of enhancing access in terms of funding proposals. We also had, in terms of policy, two important decisions. So one on accreditation, so the revised accreditation framework. Those of you who are familiar with the the GCF processes are aware that there's supposed to be accreditation and reaccreditation. Doc just mentioned about one of the entities that is almost ending its first phase of accreditation, but has been able to secure a project. So what we know up to today is that you have to be accredited, and then once after 5 years, you go for reaccreditation. When the new executive director came, she, based on the advice that was given to her, looking at the long pipeline for accreditation that were queuing, she decided to pause for reaccreditation and then work with the board to have a package that will revolutionize the accreditation system. And so we started this about 2 years ago, a journey to revise the accreditation process. Fortunately, we had this decision adopted at B42, which has some significant issues. One of the things about reaccreditation is that now with this new adopted policy or framework, there is no reaccreditation as we used to know in the past. However, entities are going to be assessed by other means, which has been clearly stipulated in the decision that has been adopted. One of the channels with which we are going to assess the effectiveness of accredited entities is the monitoring accountability framework. And so it has been revised. The old MAF has been revised, and then to accommodate the new decisions that we have made for the revised accreditation framework. That is where we had a long debate and discussions on certain languages that could affect the portfolios of our entities. And so those of you who are watching online, it took us too long to get a decision on the MAF. It was the MAF and then also self-nomination, which I'll come to later, which actually delayed the accreditation reform package. Whilst our partners thought that coming for review after 5 years, the entity's entire portfolio must be assessed. Coming from developing countries, we felt that that is not right. And so we launched a campaign which was spearheaded by Saudi Arabia and then supported by all developing countries to make sure that that language is revised. And so we went back and forth of it. And fortunately, I think the language that we got only gives us the opportunity to assess the entities component of GCF portfolio. So the one that you're dealing with, the GCF, is what is going to be assessed or reviewed. And so that was one of the landmarks that we were able to achieve. Otherwise, it was going to be very difficult for most of our entities, because most of our entities are having portfolios that have fossil-related interventions, which was going to be very problematic. Another issue was the self-nomination. What we know, the reform is saying that now, if you are not a public entity, if you're not a government institution, you can self-nominate. So if you're a private sector or a civil society entity, you can self-nominate. And then when you nominate yourself, you can go through the accreditation. But then you don't actually have to have an endorsement by the NDA, but you can just go through. But later, when you are going for programming, obviously your activities are going to be supported. It has to be in line with the national priorities. And this is where you will need the support or the approval, the no objection letter from the NDA. We thought that it was very weak language, and it's going to give some kind of maybe leverage for certain private entities or non-state entities not to do things in line with the country priorities. Beyond that, we are also anticipating that if we go that route, then the Secretariat will also be receiving quite a number of entities that they will even struggle to accredit. So then the problem that you want to solve will later come back to you. We went back and forth of it. Yes, we didn't want to prevent the non-public entities to self-nominate. However, they have to engage with the NDA for the NDA to know what they intend doing, and then get some kind of message from the NDA to be communicated to the Secretariat before the process can start. And so that is also one of the key things that we were able to achieve. In the interest of time, let me finish with regional presence. The GCF presence in regions had also been on the table for discussion for the last 3 years. At B41, we got a decision that said we can start the processes to have regional presence in countries, in developing countries. But then that decision also mandated us to commission certain steps to get us a final decision at B43, which may happen either in October or in December, depending. We are still discussing that one. And so in between B41 and B43 is B42, which has supposed to have a decision to start launching the TRs and the call for proposals by countries who are interested in hosting GCF offices and outposts. Going back and forth of it, we had a decision that had actually launched the whole process. And so we have mandated the Secretariat to start call for proposals so that interested countries or regions can bid. And then once they receive the applications, they have to screen them, write a report on it, and then make recommendations and submit that for the board's approval. It is when this is submitted to the board that the configuration and other things will be done. And so B42 was a landmark board meeting with quite a number of other things that came in between. But for the interest of time, I will stop here and then say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to provide or share this information with your participants. I am available for the next 5 minutes to respond to any question that may come out of the presentation that I did, or any other issue that somebody needs clarification on regarding the B42 meeting. Thank you, Doc, once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Entry. So, particularly on the regional presence, do you have any guidance for Africa constituencies, how we could manage this application for the regional offices so that we don't compete with ourselves, but we are able to use it to actually address some key issues. For example, having one of the regional, I suppose we will have two. That is what is anticipated for Africa. So maybe having one in an area where it's not just English speaking, but French speaking, so that there will be that either French or Lusophone, or so that there will be that balance and fairness in terms of language.
Thank you, Doc. I think that is something that we discuss internally as African board members. So we have two challenges as a continent. One is the language, and then also the other one is the geographical locations. If you look at the continent, we also have about 34 countries that are LDCs who also need to be, in fact, they have been talking a lot about LDC, special circumstances for states and LDCs. And Africa having 32 of the LDC countries also presents us a unique situation to make case for at least two officers for a start. There had been a lot of pushback from the partners not to prejudge what is going to be, but I think in our sense, they don't want a number which also we agree from the start. However, in our mind, we as African board, when it comes to the configuration state, at least we have to push for at least two officers. In my mind, and this is my personal suggestion, I think we should be able to look at language so that we position one in a region where you can find a lot of the French speaking countries in terms of visibility, in terms of closeness, so that they can be able to do business. Then the second one has to also do with centrality, somewhere central, that all the other countries who are not French countries can also assess. I know when the call is made, many countries will express interest, but I think we should be talking to each other so that we don't compete each other out at the end of the day as a continent. So this is what I can say for now, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. That's very, very useful. So probably we have to really also sensitize the countries, how probably they could also support having a much more regionally coordinated approach to this, and maybe the Africa AGN, the Africa group of negotiators, probably you could take it also at that level, so that we are able to be more coordinated and use it to solve a solution, to provide a solution rather than just competing among ourselves. One thing that will really undermine our capacity in Africa is competing among ourselves. And this is why, we even having this strategic meeting. So thank you very much, Dr. Entry. Now we want
to... So maybe before I sign off,
okay.
I think one thing that is very important is what you mentioned about the coordination. We should not sleep on this. We should make sure that our costs are already in there, because if it is not there, it cannot be assessed in the first place. And so much as we have to guard against too many submissions, we should also be careful not to submit very minimal proposals. At least we have to make sure that even if we are submitting 3 or 4, we have coordinated. And then strategically, we know that even if we get 2 out of it, it will be beneficial to the continent. I think that is very important. And I do agree with you that this needs to be coordinated, either by the AGN or the AU itself, or by any other partner that stands at an advantage to be able to coordinate some of these issues strategically. So that's what I want to add to the discussion.
Thank you very much. That was very, very useful. And we want to appreciate your coming to debrief so that we know what is happening and some of the implications and the advantages that we should, as a continent, we should take, and we really appreciate your time for it. So in the next section, we have Mr. Peter Ondengo, who is the chair of all the NDAs. I think we all know what NDAs are. And the NDAs in Africa have their own organization, and it's Mr. Peter Ondengo who is the chair. So Mr. Peter Ondengo will take about 5 minutes to let us know of their NDA Accelerated Climate Finance Mobilization Strategy. Mr. Ondengo, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Timothy, for bringing us together. And indeed, I also would like to take this opportunity to congratulate my African colleagues on this great opportunity to be briefed on what happened within the last GCF board. AFDAN, which is Africa Green Climate Fund National Designated Authorities, has been very critical in trying to bring in a coordination framework, especially for enhanced and additional mobilization of climate finance. And one of the key things that we have been championing is to see how we can make it easier for the African countries which have not been having accredited entities, particularly direct access, to be given opportunity to have direct access. So congratulations, the board members that have made that one to be revised. We need to do more because a number of challenges are still existing in the continent. Number two, we are already having as AFDAN, we're already developing a 5-year strategic plan, which is supposed to be in line with the European Union and a number of development partners to support our African countries to increase access to climate finance continental-wide. Number three, the network had already been recognized and given the mandate by the AU, and Timothy, you are part of this, to see how we can support AU and all its organization in building the capacity of the countries and also to increase access to climate finance without having barriers. Number four, we have been having challenges, especially imposed by indirect access entities, where they bypass countries, go to the GCF Secretariat, submit their projects there, which are not developed applying the locally led urban streams within the counties and the continent's objectives, and they are crowding out the African countries' entities. We have been having a very good meeting, and there is a paper coming out for that to promote direct access, enhance NDA's capacities, and also develop project pipelines which are already aligned with the NDA 3.0, which we have submitted, so that we can have increased flow in consistent with the Article 2, Article 4, 7, 8, and 9. And finally, there is a new development, given that Article 6 has already been, operational modalities have already been worked. We are seeing a number of people in the continent coming, particularly from the private sector, to come and now tap into the Article 6, especially market components of the regulated market. This is a key area that we really need to look at jointly to see how we can safeguard the continent in maximizing the quality of the carbon credits without necessarily being dilution. On the GCF offices, I really concur with your team. We need a proper coordination. We don't need to compete among ourselves. We need to get this thing, select the regions and language and the least developed counties, so that we have a mechanism through which we have this plan of increasing our mobilization to about at least towards $1 trillion by 2050 on this. And colleagues, we will be calling upon you, and Timothy, we will be with you as AFDAN there are some support for capacity building for counties to develop pipelines so that we can enhance the county-led processes, especially on adaptation on this one to make sure that we work. And finally, there is an attempt to create national platforms. Those national platforms are not aligned with the national priorities and policies and NDC. So I would urge our colleagues from the continent that we don't need to create several continents, which is causing confusion. We need to be strategic and we need to move together and enhance. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Okay, thank you very much.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Peter. And please carry our. Okay, thank you very much.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Peter. And please carry our apologies to your NDA colleagues. We saw most of them have registered, but because of the 100 participant limitation, we are facing issues. We've seen that there are a lot of people who are trying to, but they are not able to. So please carry our apologies to them. And thank you very much for sharing this. Let them know that our next meeting in October, we will increase the participation to about 500 participants. So there will be more space for them.